enjoying this though? Is this great? Next up, we'll let you guys have a crack at the next question. The biggest hurdles to having marijuana legalized in this country. Give me two things. What are the biggest hurdles in the way of having marijuana legalized? Mark, we'll start with you.
I would say a concern for young people. That's why I tend to emphasize that prohibition makes life much more difficult for young people. And that if I were talking to parents, I would tell them, please, please, please tell your children to only hang out with the pot people. Do not let them hang out with the alcohol people. Those people will be having promiscuous sex, forgetting things, doing crazy violence, having arguments. And don't hang out with the meth people, please. And don't hang out with the cocaine people. And please stop hanging with those kids with Wellbutrin snorting up their nose. And please don't get involved with any religious cult. And when it gets down to the pot people, the only people that are going to be honest, trustworthy, reliable, and sober-minded.
So number one is the focus on youth.
Absolutely. Don't criminalize. And I would say convince those parents, because really the rest of Canada is already on board.
So not the conservatives?
No, conservatives favor legalization, 52%. Not the party itself, but the people who vote conservative already want legalization. Old people want legalization, and they're going to want it more because pot makes you feel good. The reason people smoke pot is because everything in life gets better when you smoke pot. Right? That's no mystery at all. Whether you've got health problems or psychological issues, or you just want to feel better doing routine housework, pot makes everything better, I guarantee you.
Thank you, Mark. John, you agree? Were those the two biggest hurdles? If not, what are your two, and then we'll go to you guys?
I think one of the biggest hurdles is the public perceptions of cannabis and the network of harms that have been built around it by the propaganda. There's no other word for it that's in the press today. Despite the progress that we made in thinking about cannabis and the strong, public support nationwide for medical marijuana and recreational marijuana use in British Columbia, there's still a very powerful and entrenched set of interests that want to maintain the status quo. The RCMP figure prominently in that group. They do not want to relinquish any kind of control whatsoever. I asked somebody above the inspector level what it would take for the RCMP to change their mind. I said, what evidence would you accept to change your mind on the dangers of cannabis? And he paused for a moment and he said, John, we can't change your mind. It's Ottawa's policy. So we need to drill down to the mindset that supports this, both at the political level, Crown Prosecutor level. Lawyers make a lot of money, federal lawyers make a lot of money off of prosecuting cannabis cases. So there's all those bureaucratic interests.
Thank you.
And Stephen Harper.
Jim, when Washington legalized marijuana, were you concerned at all that
Washington legalized?
Sorry, what did I say?
Washington State?
Yeah, what did I say?
Washington.
Yeah, Washington State.
Two separate sets of
So, yeah, I can see that.
Okay, so anyhow, as for the RCMP, they're very actively studying marijuana and the effects in Colorado and in Washington State. You're familiar with ICRS?
I don't respect much in the way that the RCMP has commissioned.
I asked you.
I am familiar.
ICRS is a crime lab that has areas, and they study active criminal behavior of gangs and different effects. So they have a lab here in Vancouver at SFU. They have another lab in Melbourne. They have a lab in Oxford University. And they go around and they take all the active criminal behavior, and they're studying Colorado right now. So the big thing they discovered over the last year, that the legalized grow operations grew by over 30%.
How would they know?
Because
If they're illegal, how would they know?
Because they must them.
Oh, so it's a legal one.
My question was, are you concerned that when Washington State legalized marijuana, that could affect BC? And to a broader extent, are you concerned that this debate is shifting, and then one day, sooner rather than later, we will have legalized marijuana? And personally, are you worried?
You know, the bandwagon is already gone. The train's running towards the end of the line. Anyhow, are they going to legalize it? In my opinion, they've already done that with medicinal marijuana. It's already legalized. You get a headache, you go to the doctor, you get 75 pounds, you grow it. Life's good. So that battle, in my opinion, is just, it's already done. But the problem is is that nobody is getting into this and looking at the secondhand effect. Up until, was it 20 years ago, we smoked cigarettes inside our cars with our kids sitting in there. Now they said, oh my God, secondhand smoke. We gave away pills back in the 50s to pregnant women so that they would not have morning sickness. And a bunch of kids got born with little hands about that big. So we don't do a lot of research before we jump into shit.
But marijuana's been around for 13,000 years. Thalidomide was out for
And now
1
it's just being studied.
Jerry, you've been quiet. We'll let you, you want to weigh in on this, and then we'll move on. I mean, do you feel like that?
Well, the original question to Mark was about the challenges, and I really didn't hear a lot of that. I heard a lot of rhetoric. Am I afraid? Well, there's a couple different answers. Professionally, I'm not really afraid. I run an addictions consulting firm. I'll never be out of work. 2 weeks after they legalized marijuana in Washington State, I did an intervention on a 19-year-old boy who swore to me that it didn't matter that he was smoking marijuana. Told his parents it didn't matter because the government just legalized it. 2 weeks later, I got a phone call. They found him face down on the floor unconscious with a heroin overdose. So now they want me to come back down there and bring him up. So for me, on a professional level, no. What worries me is that we're having a conversation, an economic conversation of, it's part of the reason BC is so beautiful because we have bud here. If you want to feel happier, you should smoke pot. What's wrong with a natural neurotransmitter release? I come from experience. I smoked marijuana for 17 years as a child. My dad grew marijuana on the balcony. All my family smoked marijuana. What was my message when it came time to smoke marijuana? Yeah, let's go, party on. I ended up in a drug and alcohol treatment facility with an addiction to 3 other substances.
So it's
Am I worried
So
about
you should have
people?
stayed on
Sure
pot.
You know what?
I can't stand it when people admit what a fuck up they were in their own life and they put that on the rest of us, so we have to carry this burden of their own stupid behavior.
I think people are already smoking pot. Legalization isn't going to make people feel like I want to go smoke pot. They're already smoking pot.
So you would call it a gateway drug?
I would call it an absolute gateway drug. There's tons about it.
We hear,
So you guys are both
That's not for everyone.
you guys
That's
are
not an
both
exclusive
former addicts now making money off other addicts, right?
So let's get that point clear. For one thing, I don't draw a salary from Vision Quest. I still work my second job because I deal with convicts and they ain't got a pot to piss in.
And all of whom are with you because of prohibition.
I-
If drugs were legal, you wouldn't even see those people.
What's that?
You wouldn't
Listen,
see
you
them.
and I share the same thing. We both went to jail for importation of narcotics. Right? You imported dope into the States, I imported dope.
folks, guys, you'll get a.
I sent seeds in the mail. Don't
No,
Prove
I
me
hear
with
what
your
you want.
behavior.
There's not a lot of difference, Mark.
Okay.
There's not a lot of difference.
between what? What do you
I don't make, no, you're accusing me of making money off addicts. I don't make money off addicts. What I do is I help people in incarceration get out of jail and get a life and get treatment. And I help them grow up a little bit.
And you said 95% have addiction issues.
All in jail, all across Canada, United States, 95% of the
Right,
people.
and having been
I'm
5
not
years
done
in,
yet.
but I've been in prison with them.
Conspiracy would allow you.
We don't have an illegal business selling pot to people, Mark.
Folks,
No, you like you
is
said.
that Mrs. Everett?
I believe it is.
Okay, guys, we're gonna move on to another question. We're gonna move on to another question, and if you have a question, we're almost at that point. Show, just so I can get a feel for how many people want to say something. Right now, how many people want to say something? Okay, we'll go one more question up here. We'll go to the audience. We'll go to the audience after that. And keep in mind, questions need to be concise. This is not a time to sound off. It's one question, we move on. We'll go back to the questions from the students that they submitted. How would legalizing marijuana change law enforcement's relationship with the gang and drug communities? Or would it? We'll start with you.
I think it's a bit premature to know. I don't think I could answer that question definitively, but on my blog, Crim Guide, WordPress, it's called Crim Guide, I've got a list of resources that speaks to that very issue and how, for example, some of the Mexican gangs that have been trafficking cannabis, I'm not saying into the country, but have been trafficking cannabis into the United States are now getting worried with the legalization movement. And that's shown in the drop in prices from the cannabis that's coming south into the United States. It's dropping because, there's no longer a market in Colorado, or at least not as vibrant a market in Colorado and Washington, Hawaii, some of the other states that have taken, a very progressive approach to medical marijuana and decriminalized possession. So people, may get a ticket for possession, but it's certainly not a criminal record that falls into the list of lies.
Jim, same question. I'll read the
Change the
question.
relationship for gangs?
How will legalizing marijuana change law enforcement's relationship?
Well, the one statement was made earlier is that the gangs are, anyhow, the Hells Angels are probably the biggest white supremacy group in the planet. And they do anything to make money. It doesn't matter if it's legal or illegal. You put in illegal grow-ups, they're just going to take you over anyhow.
That is an interesting point, Mark. If marijuana was legalized, would there still be people, let's say you can go to the store and buy marijuana for a set price, it's regulated. Will we still have people, in your opinion, selling it in a back alley, more potent marijuana for a better price than you could at its regulated price? What's to say that won't happen?
Because if we make it as legal as tomatoes, then it'll be the same price as tomatoes, and nobody's going to be growing stuff indoors. Do people grow indoor hydroponic tomato things because they're going to be... No, you can't undercut the illegal tomato market. The legal tomato market is like the lowest there is. That's the market, right? So if we're all allowed to grow plants in our backyard and people can grow in farms with thousands of acres, the price of pot's going to plummet, but only when it's really legalized. Right now, what we've got in these states like Washington is quasi-legalization, because Washington still charges $15 to $25 US a gram, when you can buy the same gram in Vancouver for $5 to $7 a gram, and it's illegal, right? So clearly, the legal market has to be reflecting the market. We don't have that yet, but when we do, marijuana will be like $5 an ounce, $10 an ounce. Realistically, because that's what it'll cost us to grow it ourselves. If it's legal, it's what we do.
Jerry, last word to you. You were saying?
I just said, is that an empirical study? I believe that organized crime probably already has some corporations formulated to get in on those ones.
Even better, let's hope all criminals become legal businessmen. Isn't that what we want? Isn't that the ultimate objective by ending prohibition, is that everybody who was once a gangster now has to behave with the same protocols everybody else does?
Folks, thanks, Mark. It is time for the question portion of the evening. We have a microphone. I believe there's one there, and there is one there. The lights are on them right now. If you have a question, can you work your way to the microphones? And we'll go one at a time.